Welcome everyone. Welcome to Drakenmemoria. I hope you are all having a very nice evening. If not, I hope that the prospect of spending the evening with us will make it better. For those of you who might be wondering what Drakenmemoria is, well, it is a bunch of people playing Dungeons and Dragons. So if this is not something that will interest you, well, we're not changing our schedule, so you'll have to make do with it. For everyone else, if you're someone who is used to watching us, well, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you with us again. And if you're new to the channel, well, it's a pleasure to have you with us for the very first time. And as you can see, well, we're a bit earlier in our late beginning, so yay!
I think that is the very first time we actually managed to get earlier than our schedule.
No, actually, we're always late, but we're early in our lateness today, so.
What happened to us?
I don't know. It is the world.
Again.
All right.
Your German is bleeding out onto us. We're getting more efficient.
I'm still not German.
All right. All right. So, let's get this started. And hopefully we're going to have everyone for the whole session today. Because if we're supposed to fight, it's going to be a good idea if the priest is there. So
Yeah, that's
and not stuck in an awkward silence with the druid.
Yeah, and so just that you know, because of how many awkward silence there were during the last session between you and Valtteri, there has been some rumors that you might be into her. Just to let you know.
That you're aware of the rumors.
I mean, it's not like audience was representing the male type very well to Anvara.
Got him.
And we start the session with low blows. All right.
The Dark Elf I'm mounting right now would disagree. What?
Well, I'm not.
Yeah, well, I have standards.
And then the bird walked in and the lights got turned back on.
If you only knew what happened last time.
Yeah, and we're gonna start on this recap right away. So, during last session, the party managed to wake up without any serious incident. They all gathered their things, prepared for what was going to happen, as they all decided to go back into the mine where they had slain. You really shouldn't mix two words together. Where they had slain their bounty, the Umberhawk, because they discovered there might actually be something else behind this. So they decided to go back in, this time trying not to attract too much attention. They made a little bit of investigation, realizing that some of the dwarves had actually noticed that Bram, the person who started the mine, had been acting a bit differently for the past few days, and as a matter of fact, since the attack started. So the party suddenly decided, well, maybe we should learn more about this. So a plan was hatched. The Silent One would go on its own, trying to find proof of this strangeness, while the not-so-silent ones would act as a diversion. Everything went exactly as planned. Remy went inside of a small office, rummaged around, made a bit of noise, but Audience and Fisher were proficient enough in distracting everyone else outside. Remy managed to find a few interesting things, including maybe a proof that Dashari elves, dark elves, were involved in what was happening. He stuffed everything inside his backpack, in his cloak, and he decided to make his way out. He warned everyone that everything was good, and he started to make its way out. However, as it has been becoming the custom with this party, the diversion slowly started to become the main plan, as audience decided to make sure that the owner of the mine really didn't notice what was going on and forced him to introduce him to what he thought would be the best ale to convince a dragonborn of the supremacy of dwarven ale. But this dwarf didn't succeed at all. He even gave him probably the mildest of ale that he had. So, figuring that this was a good plan to point this dwarf as being a fraud, he decided to involve half the mine into this debate, which eventually managed to stress the poor dwarf and tried to run from the situation where he was caught by Fisher and audience and put into an even more stressful situation, which forced him to reveal himself as being something more. Darkness ensued, then weird stuff ensued, and then when the darkness faded, we were having a construct walking around trying to find his target. We had a Dashari elf pinned to the ground and a dragonborn sitting on the poor dark elf pinned to the ground. And I think it's important that we should mention that the poor elf was being sat on by something weighing around 350 to 40 pounds, with all the armors and the almost 100 pounds of coin he's carrying. So basically he's being crushed alive.
I didn't add the weight of my items.
That's why I say this poor elf is being sat on by nearly 400 pounds.
Actually, that's
dark elf
much closer
pancake.
to like 500. I think it might be
Good
over
lord.
500.
Don't you also enjoy a dark elf pancake?
Let's see, 100 pounds of coins. Plus that. Actually, it's right around 600 pounds
Good
with all my
lord.
stuff.
So yeah, I think the dark elf is not gonna get up from that, even if he managed to succeed a roll to ungrapple himself. The sheer weight is far too much.
Too thick.
Yeah, in every single way possible.
Correct.
All right, so, and this is when no, actually, Remy, before the episode ended, realized that no one was following him outside of the mine. So, he decided to come back in and realize that the plan had slightly changed.
Slightly, you say.
Yeah. So, the episode ended with the poor dark elf wheezing, trying to get this massive dragonborn away from him. Yeah, I was trying to figure out a way that we could say this another way, but no. And this is where we are. All the while, Anvara and Valtari were just watching the scene. Valtari feeling that this was, well, slightly familiar in the way that it was unraveling. And Anvara being, well, slightly distracted. Staring in the distance. And
Talking about clouds.
yeah, sorry. Since I didn't know what you were going to talk about with Valtteri while all this was happening, I started the conversation by saying, nice weather, huh? So,
Yeah, sounds about right.
yeah. And this is where we are. So, Anvara, audience, Valtteri, Remy, and Fisher. What do you want to do?
Good question.
Audience would probably, now that the darkness has been revealed and the dark elf has been revealed, he'd probably turn to the other dwarves and kind of calling out their attention, be like, see, look, see, he is no dwarf at all, but a sneaky dark elf amongst your ranks.
Anyone else?
I'll pull out some rope and move to tie him up.
Yeah, as long as
would-
if you start by tying his legs together, you're not gonna have a lot of difficulty because the rest of the body is being pressed on by a lot.
Although maybe, like once the hands become free, he's going to personally ensure that those are tied well.
I think the fisherman should be pretty good at doing this.
Pretty good at knots, just a little bit.
I keep watching. I guess I would go a little bit closer, but not too close.
All right. Well, since you are standing next to also the tree, Orunak, well, he just looks at you and says, that was really interesting. I think it's a custom for all of you to clap when it's a good show. That was amazing, everyone. No one's clapping. Am I doing this wrong?
Is all like a bard?
No, he's closer to Adrid.
I'm just like, it's a different kind of show.
Oh,
Anvara's down with it, starts clapping with Onak,
Or
cheering him on. Says, whoop, whoop, go, yeah, encore.
all right. So, we get audience, Remy, and Fisher trying to sausage this poor Deshari elf. And all the dwarves slowly gathering around looking at this elf. You can even hear one of those that had a cask of ale just beside him arguing that this was the best ale for audience to try. Oh, I guess that explains a few things. He looks at the dark elf. And so, what exactly are you doing here? Dark elf doesn't answer.
Audience, I think you might need to get up if he's going to be able to talk.
Is he tied up yet? Is he tied up now?
Yeah, we can say he's tied up. It's been at least 1 minute.
Okay. I will get off
What's
of
going
him
on?
if he is tied up.
Alright. Oh, I think we have a camera that's stuck.
Oh. Yep.
Aha!
Oh, there we go.
You're back.
Got a few seconds of that dashing smile.
Alright, so yeah, he's well tied up. Between the two of them tying him up, yeah, it's probably very efficient and very hard to get out of. So for now, the Dark Elf really doesn't answer much. He's just looking around. Well, I'd say make anyone trying to figure out what he's doing, I would allow you to make an insight roll for this.
I will do that.
Maybe he's keeping an eye on him.
I think I'm too far away, or am I? Because I would still keep watching.
It's been a few minutes. If you want to get closer to this, you don't need to stay 50 feet away from this.
Rainy with a 15 insight.
Alright. I got a 13.
Okay.
That'll be a 4. It's a 5 minus 1.
Yeah, you're still having trouble discerning the subtle clues on people's faces, because every time you look in the mirror, you don't have much to analyze. So it's still a bit weird when you're looking at some people. It's is it happiness? No, it's not happiness. It's anger?
And for me, it's a not natural 20.
All right. Well, how much did you roll, Remy?
13.
13. All right. So we got 2 13 and 1 20. So yeah, I guess it's enough for everyone. I'd say the three of you are noticing that he's still trying to figure out how to get out of this. His eyes are darting around. He's trying to look at who's around him, and this circle of dwarves slowly tightening up around him. He hasn't completely given up, but he's slowly getting to that point where he's realizing that he doesn't have much of any sort of chance of getting out of this on his own.
Rainy will say to the elf, in Undercommon, realize the position you're in, and follows it up with, the more you struggle, the worse it gets.
Jesus Christ.
So he's a bit surprised by the fact that he's hearing something in his own language. He looks at you for a moment, and he looks at all of you, and he says something which I believe none of you can understand, and with the exception of Remy, if he speaks in Undercommon. All right.
No. I don't know if you're waiting for an answer.
Well,
No.
at least a sign.
I mean,
all
my
right.
languages are clearly stated. They don't change every episode.
No, that's all right. So, Remy, you hear him say, "You think you're so clever for finding me out. I will admit it's a dumb mistake I made. But you're way too late. You're way too late." And he starts trying to wiggle out of his rope again and looking around, trying to figure something out.
If he's trying to wiggle out, can I punch him again?
Well, yeah, and I'd say you have advantage on hitting him.
Alright, I'm gonna punch him. Okay, I'll stick with the crit. Hopefully that doesn't kill him. That's a 10 damage to him.
Oh,
You can specify non-lethal.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I hit him for 10 damage. I would suggest not moving.
He seemed just a little bit surprised by how much force there was in this, and he really didn't see it coming at all. So, with a little bit of blood and good scuff mark on his chin, I guess you think you're so clever, huh? You only found me. How many others do you think there are in here? He says that in common.
Well, you know you're not alone now.
Oh, and you really needed
Can
a...
I roll insight on that statement?
All right. Go ahead.
And I'm also going to actually use, as I roll insight, I'm going to also use actions. I'm going to use another divine sense, since all the dwarves are grouped around us anyway right now. So,
Okay.
So
alright. I'm going to get a 10 on insight, but I also use a divine sense to sense if there's any other evil from any of the other dwarves.
All right. No, you don't sense any other evil in the vicinity. As for your 10, it's a bit hard to tell. You haven't met a lot of Dishari elves, so you're not that used to their way of doing things and their way of expression. But I'd say with a 10, you get a feeling that he's not lying about not being alone. But that's as far as you can get with a 10.
Okay.
I don't know, would Raimi be able to roll that insight with advantage? Considering his history?
Well, you can definitely roll insight, that's for sure. Advantage.
Just on account of spending about 7 years with one?
Yeah, I know. No, I'd say it's not enough.
Anyway.
It's not enough to have advantage.
Not that I needed it anyway. Rolled a 19.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, with a 19, I'd say one thing that you pick up more about this, and since you're the one who has the most trouble communicating with others, I'll send this to you privately.
Of course.
Well, it's more fun like this. You have to figure out how to tell everyone.
Puzzle that nobody asked for. It's like, I'll let you pass, but only if you solve. Slams it on the table. This Rubik.
Yeah. All right. So how am I going to?
That's when you find out that they switched 2 of the stickers, but after they mixed it, making it impossible to solve. Fun fact, if you didn't know that, there are
That's-
But
two
wouldn't
cubes, so if you swap the stickers, it becomes impossible to solve.
I mean, wouldn't, like, because of the technique you're using for it, because there's like a special technique for it, wouldn't you notice it at one point?
Like, like somebody who's like experienced with solving Rubik's cubes would eventually notice. But that said, they wouldn't be able to figure out which 2 stickers were swapped, especially unless it's like a new Rubik's cube, then it would be super obvious.
I mean, it depends on which
Okay.
color to start with.
couldn't tell you. Also depends if it's a 2x2
Alright.
Rubik's Cube or a...
So with your 19, this is what you pick up from what he's saying.
It's okay. Who would have talked to him in this situation?
So I'm
Okay,
All right, go
in
ahead.
Elvish they'll say they talk a big game. Yeah. They talk a big game, but they're nothing more than mice on the floor.
All right. So you're talking in normal Elvish.
Normal Elvish.
All right. So who understood that? Of course,
I did not.
Valtari. I'm not sure. Did you?
Oh no.
All
I
right.
have 3 languages. No.
All right. Fisher. No, I don't think you
Nope.
have. All right. So the only one who understood this was Anvara. So you can deduce by the way that everyone's looking around that you and maybe a few dwarves understood what Remy said. The meaning of it seems to escape the dwarf who could understand this. But I'm not talking for you whether you understand it or not.
Audience will also say, since he used his action to the elf, well, even if there are others, I do not sense any others in this room, so none of your allies nearby to help you, per se.
I think you're muted, Anvara.
No, I just turned down my mic sensitivity because I was.
All right. So you were saying?
I was saying there's an easy way to test if there's like an actual elf in the room. It's just gotta yell in Elvish, "I am going to burn this room down," when there's only dwarves in the room.
Well, if you yelled that in Elvish, you did notice that a few dwarves could understand Elvish when Remy spoke. So, of course, a few of those just looks at
It was
you.
a hypothetical. Hypothetical.
Okay, great. Seeing that Anvara didn't get the original meaning of what he said, he's going to think on another phrase, and he will say in common, nothing but a scared feline.
Mm. He speaks out of fear, not bravery. Uncharacteristic evil laugh.
Yeah. All right. So,
Is there an audio delay?
sorry?
I think there might be a bit of a delay. Audio.
No, it's because sometimes your sound cuts.
Oh, that's
It's not
all
stable.
right. Never mind.
But from what I'm seeing, I think the delay is less than a second right now. So, so since none of you are reacting very strongly to everything that's going on, you hear one of the dwarves say, "Oh, there's always one way of figuring things out. I've always wanted to try this." Turns around and speaking in Dwarvish. Who understands Dwarvish?
I would understand.
Oh, alright. So only you, alright. So he turns around and you hear him say in Dwarvish, "Bring that barrel here." And he's pointing toward one of the alcohol barrels. You see two dwarfs taking the barrel, dragging it where you are. "Looks, everyone, I've heard that," and he says that in common, looking at the rest of the group. "I've heard that humans use this technique, although it is a bit different. But I've always wanted to try this."
Oh Christ!
Are they waterboarding him?
He turns toward the
They're
other.
grog boarding him.
He turns toward the other dwarves. To open the cask. He said that. He says that in Dwarvish. And so you see a few dwarves looking at one another, and they all start smiling at one another. They push him on his feet. You get one that just grabs him by the hair, and yes, exactly as you thought, he dunks his head inside the newly opened cask, and you see the dwarf go, All right, take him out. He takes the poor dark elf out, and oh, 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 and he starts talking in Undercommon, but basically what it means is that burns. And you
Can
see,
the lawful goods just look at this and do nothing?
I'm not gonna do anything yet.
I feel uncomfortable.
This doesn't feel very lawful good.
Rainbow Mountain Undercommon. You can't hide from me.
I'd say if he was able to open his eyes right now, he'd probably be glaring at you, but his eyes are shut and he tries to look in your direction. But just as he's trying to do this, the dwarf said, "Oh, seems like he hasn't been pickled long enough." So he dunks the head back inside the barrel and again starts to count. This time he goes as far as 30 seconds before he just yanks the head out and come on, how do you like our ale? This one's been aged really well. What do you want with me? And he says that in common.
Audience will say, first thing, what happened to the actual Bram? What did you do with him? Bran. Was it Bram or Bran?
Bram, yeah, it's a...
Bram, yeah.
Technically, it's written B, comma, Ram. So Bram. Or Biram. Alright. He's with the other dwarfs. Oh, there's more, huh? He just dunks the head back in without letting him say anything. And he starts counting again. He looks at all of you and says, I know, I should have let him talk a bit more, but this is fun. And he yanks the head out of the barrel again. See? Our ale is a good ale. And he turns toward you, audience, when he says that. Wouldn't you agree?
I would. Audience is torn. Audience. I just like, I don't completely agree with the methods, but I don't also completely disagree with the methods. So I'm gonna stay neutral.
Valtteri looks to Anvar and is like, isn't there better, less forceful way to do this?
I mean, yes. Yes, most certainly there are... Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I
But,
get all the Rainy
I
is our
mean,
scroll
it's
feed-
efficient.
them.
Yeah.
I need to use spell slots on this, so that's great.
And what did you say, Remy? I only heard half of it. The beginning of what you were saying got cut off by your microphone. I think that...
Oh, okay. I say, I guess while this is going on, since Raimi has nothing to contribute, he's just decided to like pull out the scrolls that he found and start reading through them, see what information.
All right. Oh, wow. All right. Well, the information that you get from the scroll is a bit disjointed. It mostly seems to be a few reports about how things are going. You get that there are at least 2 person in charge of this. So there's most likely another one very similar to him somewhere else in the mine. But you don't see any reference to a matriarch in this. So there's a chance that it is not something sanctioned by the Shari elf. Probably an initiative taken by a enterprising male wishing to prove himself. But you also find something interesting. I'd say make a... I'll let you choose between... oh, it's the same thing. So it's either Arcana... or history.
Let's go for Arcana,
All right.
because that's a fun. See, that's 13 on the die, so that would be
All right.
a total of 18.
All right. Well, that's pretty high. You get also a few glimpses of them talking about finding a rare material in the mine, and this is why they took interest in it. You only remember hearing this word a few times and nothing more, but it's a mineral that's been called on this thing the Harkanite. It's a metal that can only be found where there has been legends of dragons living there, but no longer there. There are different kinds of this material. You don't know which one this is. There's no reference which one it is. But there are different rareness to this. So there are some that are extremely rare and very prized. Those are often used by mages for very magically receptive creations. Very powerful golems have been made out of this. But there are also some that are extremely less magically inclined material. They're still very sought after. They are tied to magic in many ways, and someone that has some can quite considerably sell them for a considerable amount of gold. So there's no reference to which one it is. You know that there are 5 kinds of this material. And from the history you know, it is based on what the dragon that lived there a very long time ago was. 5 metal types of dragon, 5 metal types. And you get the feeling that most of their workforce are dwarves, which they stole from the dwarf. Sort of like a ratio of one dwarf gets killed, he gets dismembered in a way that feels like there were 5 dwarves, and then they captured 4 other dwarves.
Amy is putting the pieces together.
So this is everything that you find within these reports, and you have to read through a few of these reports to gather all of this information. He is being careful about what he's writing. He seems to know that some of the dwarves can actually understand Undercommon. So he's being careful, and you have to read quite a few pages before getting all of this information.
Meanwhile,
this poor elf is failing a few constitution saving throws. So he's not only starting to wear out physically, but he is also starting to be slightly tipsy. are there any questions that you want to keep on going? Because the dwarf seems to be having a lot of fun, and he seems to be even more encouraged by the fact that the Shari elf seems to be losing his means as some of the alcohol he's been forced to live in proximity with is getting him slightly drunk. So especially when you see that the elf gets yanked out of the cask and seem to be having trouble focus, you really see a huge grin appearing on the dwarf and looking at it. I think I have something to propose to humans now. I think that's a lot more efficient than what they do, wouldn't you say? And he turns toward the rest of you when he says that. You hear a few dwarves chuckle at this.
I hide behind our huge tree.
5-foot tall tree. You're taller than him.
It's a small tree.
Fuck.
It's a bonsai
bonsai.
oak.
I still stand behind our tree.
Audience and
Fucking-
Fisher?
The obvious question to ask here is
Yes.
where are the dwarves?
Most of the dwarves are there, and they seem to be having a bit of fun.
No, not the dwarves there. The
Oh,
dwarves. Because he said Brahm is with the other dwarves.
oh, okay. As a question, all right. Let's see. He hasn't quite been worn down enough to answer that. As you say this, he looks at you, and knowing what will come right after he answers, he looks at you and says, enough. And somewhere... Come on, let's do this again. And the dwarf just says, I'm happy to oblige. And he dunks his head again inside the cask.
Could I roll, I don't know if I would need insight or just straight up intelligence to put the pieces together of where the other dwarfs are.
Well, since you haven't actually been to the lower levels, you've only been on this
No,
main floor.
I meant from what I have heard, like when he told us about the new ores and stuff they got.
Oh no, the stuff that Raby read. He has no way of communicating that to you.
No
Right now.
fucking way.
But he told us that after we killed that Umber Hawk that they can now use those. Not those ones, the ones where they... how do I say it?
What he said
Where they
was
cannot
that
work in.
yeah, what he said was that he was going to be able to search this shaft more to see if there actually was a rare metal down there. But it's all been rumor so far. Of course, you can try.
But would it be insight or intelligence? Then it
No,
would
no.
have
Putting together this puzzle would be intelligence.
Well, let's try it.
You're trying to put together a puzzle with very few pieces of it, so it's not going to be easy.
Well, I rolled a 19 in total with my intelligence.
So, from what you have gathered so far, well, from what information you know about the Deshari elves, and the little information that you had, also not knowing the layouts of this mine, the best deduction that you could make is that they're probably being held somewhere as slave miners, but since you don't know where they place their headquarter, that's about as far as you can get.
So the other dwarfs are kind of slaves, right?
The missing dwarves, according to what you just said, are most likely being used as slave labor.
I'll try to talk with one of the dwarfs I think is able to talk with me and not too focused on the waterboarding or the beer boarding or ale boarding. Yeah.
Airboarding
It's not any kind of boarding. It's just straight up drowning.
In alcohol.
Yeah, drowning standing straight up.
Waterboarding is very specific and much worse.
Would I find a dwarf even that isn't like right now?
Oh, of course. You can easily find a dwarf that you can draw their attention, but for them, this sort of feels like a bit of a satirical justice. Because dwarves living mostly underground, they would often come in contact with dark elves, and so they would have an history as a race of conflict. So getting one of them captured and using something that's been probably used against them as a reputation, always saying that they're always drunk and they never take anything seriously, that they're just a joke. Getting information by nearly drowning a dark elf over and over again in alcohol, that's very funny for them, at least for this group.
Great.
So you can certainly draw someone's attention, but half of this attention is still going to be just watching from the corner of his eyes to see if this elf is starting to get drunk, and then chuckling a few times, especially when he gets the head out.
Excuse me, I have like 2 questions maybe. Do you
Yeah?
have like a headquarters or something here?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. You can just, hold on. And he, just as he takes the other dwarf, just takes the elf out of the barrel. This time he nearly pushed the head all the way to the chest, almost put him in entirely there, and just yank him out. Yeah, toward the entrance, there's always a guard there, and he's the one that counts all the dwarf that goes in and out. And yeah, he definitely. You probably even met him. He's often at the front of the gate.
And last question, do you have like people that are unwilling to work here?
Well, there's a lot to do here. You mean people? You mean dwarves that don't want to work at all?
Well, I was trying not to be direct, but like slaves.
You do know that this is not just a mine. It's also a home. So if you don't want to work here, it means you don't want to make this place your home.
It's
You
just
can leave.
Okay.
now you make me miss what he just did. Oh.
It's okay. I'm leaving you alone.
That last question really shook him up because it didn't make much sense
Yeah. Well.
for
Yeah.
him. Dwarves not wanting to work underground, building a home, a mine, getting mineral, doing stuff with the mineral, selling the mineral. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to do all that, you can still work with the alcohol. But it's sort of asking settlers, are there any settlers that don't want to work at making this settlement? That's how weird it was for him.
Yeah. I'll just leave him alone. And I guess I don't know. Did anybody of the others notice it? Just out of curiosity.
Incidentally, has Raimi finished reading by this point?
I'd say yes.
All right, so what Raimi is going to do next is he's going to walk over to audience and poke him in his bicep.
Can you reach his bicep?
He's still
You're really
Remy
high
is
up
still
there.
5 feet tall. You know, he just has to raise his hand,
enough.
and he's gonna reach.
At the beginning, I didn't understand biceps.
Oh, biceps. This part here.
Yeah, no. I understood I understood something else.
Oh, all right.
Fair enough. Wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, the bicep is probably the most wholesome thing Raimi could poke at, honestly.
For a
Yes,
moment-
Raimi. I'll turn down to Raimi. Yes, Raimi.
And Raimi is going to pull out the map he had found.
Okay.
Oh,
I will take it and look at it.
all right. Well, definitely, this is a part of. Most likely, some part of this underground complex. It would feel a bit of a stretch to say that this is most likely how the chef where you were, because they probably have a very standard way of building these halls, these corridors. But yeah, it could fit as where you were. And taking that into consideration, this could be a map of where they want to mine. But there's nothing in there that would help you figure out where the dwarves could be, in the sense that there's no X marking a place where there's a camp. You mostly see dugout tunnels. Some of them are very wide, meaning that they're probably dwarven made. Some seem to be very small and narrow. And there is a place that seems to have been marked as being very important to dig there, probably. Mostly because you see a few things written in... well, you can't read Undercommon either, but you see a few things written in those places. Usually on map, they write things where there's something of interest.
Oh wait, I'm confused. Was the writing on the map in Undercommon or in Dwarvish?
The writing on the map, I'd say there's both.
I would understand some of
So
Because Raimi did look at the map, but you told me last session that he wasn't able to discern anything from the details because it was in Dwarvish.
Oh, all right. Well, then, sorry. In that case, yes. Yeah, sorry, I was mistaking on the map. Yes, then definitely in that case, audience, you'd be able to recognize what's written there because most of it is in Dwarvish. So you'd be able to identify that it is a corridor made by the dwarves, and they most likely reach the place of interest, as there are a few notes written there stating in Dwarvish odd material, copperish color, single abundant vein. You can read those elements. It feels like you were being possessed by a demon because the way that you were scratching your eyes, all we could see was the white of your eyes. So,
I mean, who says I wasn't?
oh. So yeah, you can read a few those things you are able to read. There's no note about which shaft this is connected to. So, like I said, for the first part, that's very easy to identify, meaning you don't know which one it is, but it's one shaft somewhere. Judging from one of the notes, you'd say that it's probably from the same side as you were, but not necessarily the one that you were in.
Okay, so the same side. I will beckon the other members of the party over. I'll kind of turn to them and be like, guys, look what Remy found.
It appears to be a map.
And I'll point out and I'll say, I think this is at least a point of interest. I don't know if it's where potentially the dwarves are or where they were going to mine, but I think we should go and check it out since it seems the dwarves have everything handled here. I mean, we should probably tell them not to kill the dark elf, but...
As you says that, the dwarf handling this questioning pulls the head of the dark elf out of the barrel and looks at him and says, "Oh, I think he is starting to feel the effect of this. Can you imagine that? A drunken elf?" We need a way to immortalize this.
I'm going to turn to the leader of the dwarves. Steve pulled it out. I'm going to be like, me and my companions are going to go explore some of these tunnels where we think your dwarves might be hidden. And I'll tell them kind of the general area where we're going. If once you get more out of the dark elf, maybe send someone down to tell us any new information. Also, if you could please not kill him, I'll say, looking at the dark elf, that would be appreciated.
Don't worry about killing him. I was actually just planning to make sure that he was really drunk before I let him go back to where he was coming from. I think that whomever he's serving would punish him very adequately if he came back to his matron drunk.
I'll kind of give a half smile and then I'll be like, all right, well, we're gonna be on our way, or at least I am. I don't know if the rest of the party is.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So you say you're gonna be down there. And there's other dwarf, according to what you said. Yeah. And he turns toward one dwarf. You there, finish this with him. You know, just make sure that he's barely able to walk, but still able to walk. That's gonna be enough. And then just throw him outside and let it find his way back. For the rest of you... Anvara, you seem to have a problem with what he just said. I think you're muted.
I just muttered to myself, lawful good. I swear, we're lawful good. Well.
Alright, so... Well, technically there's nothing wrong with what happened. He's still alive. You still respect Respecting life.
I mean, heat metal technically doesn't kill people, but is it ethical to use like against someone?
Well, in that case, heat metal will leave you with scars. Physical scars, I mean. This one
Heat metal's
is
fucked up.
this one is supposed to leave him with a lot of mental scars. Some would argue that is worse, but
Postnatal alcohol syndrome.
That's never heal.
so and you see the dwarves. You're not gonna go down there alone. Let's organize a few group. Get those who are sleeping outside and in temporary quarters. We need to find our missing dwarves. If you say that some of them are still alive, and so you said you were going to these shafts. All right. Let's organize a few hunting. Sorry, I think I need to drink a little bit of water.
Raimi sort of quotes out, "We need 5 acres from 5 different men."
He looks at you and he says that. Well, that's not necessarily a bad idea. Groups of 5. Search out every hall that you can, especially whatever seems to not have been dug by dwarves. Apparently, they killed the monster which was hunting us. So just don't forget to be well equipped, because according to what he said, and he taps on the head of the poor, partially drunk dark elf. According to what he said, there might be others. So make sure you're armed. Anything you'd like to add, elf? He looks at the partially drunken elf. Let's look at the dwarf, and he says something in Undercommon, which Remy understands and know to be a very foul curse.
Maybe just like goes wide eye, like I haven't heard that one in a while.
Before we leave, I'll say to the whatever new dwarf is in charge of getting him drunk. It might not be the best idea to let him go quite yet. I mean, getting him drunk is fun and all, but maybe you want to wait until we're back with your friends before you think about letting him go.
Oh yeah, don't worry. Don't worry about. No, we're not gonna let him go right away. I mean, it's better if he really is really out of it. But you have a good point. He turns toward the other dwarves, and only audience understand this because he starts speaking in Dwarvish. Make sure that he's not dead drunk before they come back. He turns back toward all of you. Don't worry, he's going to be able to answer a few questions when you come back if you have any troubles.
Audience will kind of give a nod and then turn to the rest of the party. All right, you ready?
I'm good.
Yep.
Valkyrie
My
is
study of the
just
clouds
nodding.
is inconclusive.
She's still uncomfortable by the sight of that.
Well, you get the feeling that the dwarves are having fun. There's a bit of repressed anger. Sort of a nice justice in this. Like getting called something by your enemies and having the chance to make sure that they are like that before they leave. Same thing as if, something easier to understand. Same thing as if someone in school, college, or at work keeps telling you you're stupid, but then you get a very good opportunity to show that they're not that smart. that sort of retribution. This is what they sort of are feeling right now. And you get the feeling that they're really enjoying this moment of, oh yeah, we're going to be able to do that. Oh, that's cool. So, after he gives the order, there's maybe a group of 5 dwarves who seems to be officially in charge of drunking the elf. And the rest of the dwarves all seems to be getting their equipment. Some of them are actually taking up axes and shield. And some of them are taking a newly large pickaxe with them. Yeah, you even see one take one pickaxe and look at this. Oh yeah, this is gonna do right. Oh yes. Shoulders it and start walking with a group of 5 dwarves in one of the shafts.
Audion, noticing that, will go look at the pickaxes. Because he also wants to bring a pickaxe.
You already got one.
Oh, I mean, do I still have it? Did I not return it? I thought
I
he
don't
told
know.
me to return it. Well, I either still have one, or if I don't, I'm going to go grab one.
Then, no matter what, you have one by the time you leave this room. Actually, you get a chance to just take a nice one. You know, a little bit bigger than the others, so that it fits a bit more your size.
Alright. Excited to have it.
So, you now have in your inventory a Dragonborn size pickaxe.
Alright. Do I still have a pickaxe?
Wait, a size fit for a dragonborn, or one literally the size of a dragonborn?
No, actually,
got it.
fit for a Dragonborn.
I was about to say, like that last one would be very large.
Most likely
Yeah, that's
fit
a
for
relic.
a giant. All right. So, as you all leave these dwarves to their fun and the others to beginning to make this search and rescue operation, which a few of them you have the impression are hoping will become search, destroy, and rescue. You go back into the mines. So, which one are you going to exactly? Are you going back to where you were when you fought the Umber Hulk, or are you taking another path?
I say we go back.
Yeah. I mean,
Or follow, I say we follow the map to the we should dig here spot.
Yeah.
yes. I agree.
All right. Well, the problem is that the which shaft it is not written. So it could be the one where you were. Sorry, but it could also be another one.
I say we just head back to the one we
Yeah.
were at. Then we already know that one, and if the other dwarf parties are searching, they probably know the other shafts better. So it just makes sense.
Also, it was the
Couldn't
one
we
that
ask-
was being hit the most.
Yeah.
And so it seems like that'd be something they'd want to protect. So
All right.
Couldn't we ask the other dwarfs just to reinsure, or wouldn't they know?
What do you mean? Like, would they?
With the map,
Oh,
where that
Well,
one
just
is,
looking
where
at
it says.
Just looking at the map, there is no identification which would allow you to
Okay.
figure out which one it is. But then again, you're not a dwarf who's been working here for months, maybe years. So
Yeah.
maybe they can figure it out.
do you say that to our party then, Valtteri? What you just said.
I'm probably standing there with looking also at the map. Should we ask the, I guess, new leader? Maybe he knows where that one would be.
I guess. Am I still holding the map? I probably would be. I guess I will walk over to the dwarven leader and I'll quickly show him the map and ask, hey, do you think this is the mine shaft we were already at, or do you think it's more likely that it's another one? Or does this one ring any bells, basically, in your memory?
Well, he looks at the map and turns it around once, twice, looks at it, and then roll a natural 20. So he says, "Oh, yeah, I'd say that it's probably the one where you were. Fits with the way that the corridor is supposed to turn, maybe a few hundred feet past where where the smell is coming from. So yeah, there's a good chance. I'd say.
All right.
Are you saying that this is where we should focus our attention?
I mean, it's the only really markings on this map I can notice, so our party was going to head there. But if you want to send anyone else, that is perfectly fine as well.
Oh well, yeah. If they also have reinforcement, maybe it wouldn't be that bad of an idea to make sure that you also have reinforcements.
All right, we'll be happy for any help.
All right. So he turns around and yells a few orders in Dwarvish, which audience you would understand as him assigning a few teams specifically to that shaft, saying that this is probably the most dangerous one, where there is the highest chance of actually meeting some enemies.
All right. I'll give him a nod of thanks.
All right. Well, no problem, really. It's really been interesting having you in the mines. I just hope that it keeps on going. All right. Well, after you.
All right. We will head back towards the shaft.
All right. So you make your way back to this small elevator. Well, small for a dwarven mine. And a few teams of dwarves all pile up in there with you. It's a bit tight, but in total you might be something like 25 on this platform, slowly being lowered to where you were. Get a few dwarves looking at all of you. One of you looking at you, Anvara. You're kind of hard to miss with the color of your hair, you know? One of them looks at Valtteri and says, "We don't get a lot of horned one here. So..."
You just see how she gets like more drawn into herself, like a little ball.
Suddenly you see Valtteri shrivel up. Well, as long as you don't make any trouble, you know, it's fine. Well, at least not trouble for us. You can make trouble for whatever we find there. That's no problem.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
She has the flashbacks of when she was destroying a few creatures as her wolf form.
Yeah. There's one beside you, Remy. He's just looking at you. The feather, huh? Must be cold during winter.
Thanks. Thanks for a moment. It's like, you gonna be all right there, Amy?
Oh, my name's not Remy. They just called me Pickaxe here because I keep... Well, it's actually just wordplay. They call me Pickaxe, but it's Pick-axe. It's because of an incident that happened a few days ago. You know, it's... What did you say?
Like, unfortunately, he says, "From this day forward, your name shall be Raimi." He points to himself.
Oh, all right, yeah, all right. All right.
What? Introduce himself, but just...
Please stop confusing the dwarfs. Thank you.
And you hear Ogunak in the elevator just looking around. So, why is nobody talking to me? I'm the least weird of this group, and no one's talking to me. So eventually, it takes a few minutes, but the elevator goes back down to this familiar place where you were, and the closer you get in this shaft, that the more the smell of the decomposing and flayed Umber Hulk just comes back to your nose, because it's been sitting there for a day. It's only been partially cleaned, as there was only one team of dwarfs sent there before. So you still see a lot of Umber Hulk blood. There's sort of that distinctive smell of old blood sausage inside this corridor. Yeah, I think one of you know what that smells like. So, of course, as you get there, you get a few dwarves just going, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun." You were about to say something, Remy?
No, he just said like Remy puts 2 feathers to try to cover the holes on his beak.
You get
Of course, he gets the nose.
You see one of the dwarf around you. Say, I think you need something a little bit more consistent. You know, a bit larger in your nostril if you want to block this.
He just hangs his head down in defeat.
Yeah, I know. I know. Could
I offer him 2 good berries that he could stick into his nostril?
You can?
The second you get closer to him, he's going to dash like 20 feet away from you.
So as you start trying to make your way inside of this small island of dwarf, you see Remy look at you and starts to try and move away from you, also stuck in this island of dwarf. And it feels a bit like watching a group of 90-year-old person making their shopping. Everything happens in slow motion, but now it's because there's too many people there. So every time you manage to make one step, and you see Remy wiggle its way and make another step away, all in slow motion.
Aw,
I said
give up.
Remy. It's flexible.
I guess I give up.
All right. Well, when the elevator stops moving, immediately you see the dwarf pile out, and a few of them. Wow. Yeah. That's your doing, huh? And you see maybe 10 dwarves looking at your group. I guess they don't pay adventurers to clean up after themselves after. Might be something to look into. All right.
I'll respond with,
Yeah.
I'm sure it smells better than dead dwarf.
I've actually never smelled dead dwarf, but I'm gonna take you at your word. And it's
Audience starts singing "You're Welcome" from Moana.
Ray making minor illusion tattoos moving.
No.
So you get this "You're Welcome" song adapted to a dwarven mine.
Maybe doing jazz hands as he's doing it.
And since you were the only one, with the exception of audience, who actually saw the whole fight, you can actually narrate this pretty well with audience just saying "You're welcome" for. All right. So, as some of the dwarf just start chuckling at this display, and a few dwarf seems like they feel a bit insulted, everyone just moves away, mostly amused by this. And you are left there in the entrance with the stench of death and decay from the Umber Hulk and audience finishing his song. And you're all alone.
Just final finishing jazz hands. You're welcome. Boom.
All right. I'll take the rest of the party. You want to head back to the passage where the Dark Elf initially ran down? Want to check that out first?
I don't know. On the map, does that say it goes where we need to go?
I'll look at it. Does it?
I guess that tunnel wouldn't be on the map.
I have
No,
a question.
That's what I was gonna say. This tunnel isn't on the map, as it is a tunnel dug by the Umber Hulk.
Can I look at where it is, or where it would be on the map, and try and determine
I have.
Yeah.
if it goes in the right direction?
All right, Valtteri, what did you want to ask?
Because I have the cartographer's tools, I forgot if that means that I'm good only at drawing cards, maps, or also reading them.
No, you'd be able to. You'd be fairly good at reading them. Cartographer's tool. Yes, it allows you to draw accurate maps, but also because you're used to drawing accurate maps, you can easily look at a map, and if it's well drawn, you're going to be able to understand fairly well where everything is.
Is it well drawn?
Yeah, so.
Fisher can.
You get a feeling that it's not exactly the right scale, but everything seems to be there.
Fisher can. I try reading the map.
Go for it.
Do I have to roll anything? Or
Because of what I roll about how good the map is, I'd say yes.
okay, what do I have to roll?
Well, if you're proficient, it's just a proficiency roll. So D20 plus proficiency, and see if you can.
But what was the wait? Where's my proficiency?
Right now, your proficiency should be be +2.
Yes.
That's like a specific skill she would need to.
Why do I always roll the d20s when I'm not in combat? It's a 22 natural 20.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, for tools, usually the way it works when you're proficient with a tool is that it's a proficiency roll. If she didn't have any of this, I'd have to figure out maybe the closest thing to it. So it would probably have been intelligence, because she had to approximate this. But since she does have cartographer tools and is proficient in its use, she can just take everything out, take whatever tool she has to measure distance. So this is why it becomes a very specific proficiency.
Okay, I was just asking because, like, with thieves' tools, like, usually it winds up being dexterity plus proficiency, just as an example. So that's why I was asking. But it didn't matter.
Yeah, I'd have to check, but a lot of the tools, with the exception of thief tools, because I think they're mentioned in the description of the thief, all of the artisan tool aren't associated, I think, with a particular trait, unless it is in another.
The DM has to pick one.
The DM
like
has
that
to pick one, yeah. Well, in that case, you got a natural 20, so it wouldn't change much with proficiency and whatever it is. I'd say it would probably be something very similar to investigation because he was trying to figure out something, so it would be intelligence.
Then it would be a 23, natural 20. A natural 23.
Yeah, because +2. All right. I'm gonna check for sure. Maybe there are some suggestion, and I think it's. Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I think this is the one in which there are all the description for every tool set. I'm gonna look at this during the break, see if there's any suggestions. So natural 20 for a total of 23. Yeah, you're able to figure out about where this tunnel would start on the map. No, there are no tunnel on the map there. You'd eventually reach the place where where it's written that there's probably something if you just keep on going down the hall. Since the way to this place is mostly very large, you'd say that the dwarf probably dug out most of the road to this place, and there's only a little bit of travel to do between the last place where it seems to be very wide and organized and where it starts to just move a bit around on the map where it reaches that point. So
Okay.
if you just go down the hall, you eventually will find this place where there's supposed to be this strange ore, or you can just go down this small corridor, which would take you outside of the map and into the unknown.
I would say follow me and go to try to get to the way where it says dig here.
Okay.
Okay.
So you just follow the main hall all the way to where they want to
Hoping
be.
that the others are following me.
Well,
I mean,
audience has
follow.
already said yes, so
Yeah, we're not. We're not dumb.
all right.
No, let's just wander this dwarven mine for like 8 years.
Just follow the tiefling. She probably knows what to do.
Well, if you were around people you didn't know, they might look at you funny, but there's at least 2 of them that knows you very well, so you're not gonna get funny looks. Well, except for Raimi. Follow me! Oh.
Falling distantly behind, taking up the rear.
So-
Excuse me.
So the marching order is Valtteri, audience, Fisher, Anvara, and 30 feet behind Remy.
Maybe it's not a good idea if we get an encounter for me to go head first, but
I was just imaging the reluctance of Remy to consider you a close friend. It is more of a distance relationship. So,
Yeah, he wishes that there was more distance.
especially since you made so many efforts last session to intimidate the poor
that is
Kenku.
unfair. I never wanted to intimidate him.
For those who might have missed the beginning of last session, Valtteri and Remy entered into a staring contest, which Valtteri won. with a natural 20.
That's why I'm saying, why do I keep getting the natural 20s in non-combat actions that aren't really...
All right, so you keep on going into this hall, and for most of it, it is very wide. It keeps this 30 feet wide corridor very well sculpted. You see a few pillars. There are a few emplacement where there is sort of those lantern-like depression inside the wall, where it's sort of just a it has the shape of a lantern for the top and bottom, but the bottom is a bit wider, and there's a lot of liquid there, and sort of acts a bit like an oil lamp. So it's at regular intervals, and you walk down this hall maybe for a good 10 minutes before you start reaching points where it's a bit rougher. Every few minutes you cross a few dwarves who are walking down this same hall. Some of them have decided to go into little passageway 5 feet wide that you see coming out of one wall and then going back inside the wall on the other side. From what you've seen, they resemble a lot the dugout hallway that the Umber Hulk made. So roughly 5 feet 5 feet wide and 8 feet tall. So I get the feeling that the Umber Hulk moved a lot in this place, digging out a lot of holes and a lot of corridors. You can easily imagine that there is a near labyrinth of dugout small corridors on each side of this huge hallway. And after 10 minutes, it starts getting a bit rougher. You see less of these beautifully made walls, and it starts to become a bit rougher. You see more dwarves here, and they're all moving about, looking at things. Some of you notice a few of them have become a bit distracted because they start looking at this material that is slightly copperish in color, but it also has some sort of brilliance to it, a bit of a shimmer when you look at this thing. And you see a few very faint sort of vein of it inside the walls. You're almost where it's written that there's a lot of them. So it could be that it starts there, but there's even more further the further you go. But I'd say Anvala and Remy, you have a high enough passive perception to notice them on your own. You really don't need to make any sort of perception roll. But audience and Fisher, are you paying a lot of attention to what is going on around you, or are you just following the leader?
I'd be looking around since we're kind of on a search party.
All right.
Yeah.
Well then, make make a perception roll. So.
15.
All right.
9.
9. So, Fisher, you just walk, and for you, it's just a lot of black and gray walls, and you really don't get what the excitement is all about. And you see a few dwarves all huddled up around a place on the wall, and they must have found something. Audience 15 is exactly what you needed, that you start noticing these faint veins of copperish material. It sort of has, like I said, the color of copper, but it has a bit of a shimmer to it, and it's very faint veins. Maybe not wider than a pencil.
All right. I'll tap Fisher on the shoulder, actually, because I like kind of Fisher the best, and I
Correct.
Understandable.
Thanks.
I'll point out the vase, and I'll say, remember, we need to grab some of that for the garden before we head back after we find these dwarves.
With him pointing it out, do I see it?
Yeah.
Or is he just pointing at a wall? Okay.
Well, if you really want, I'd say you can roll a d20, and as long as you don't roll a 1, yes, you'll see them.
Okay, we're good. It was a club. Oh, fuck. It was a 2, but we're good.
I would have let you roll with advantage, especially since he's pointing at it.
Yeah. I'll make sure to remember that. You're the one with the pickaxe, though.
That is true.
It dawns on the audience. I am the one who is going to be mining this. Yeah.
Well, he's the closest
maybe
to a
we can
dwarf,
just-
so
If they are keeping them to mine this material, maybe we can just pick up some of what they've already mined when we rescue them.
That is true also.
Raimi's eyes are just anime sparkling.
Yeah, because of the shimmer. And for you, Raimi, it's actually a bit intellectually stimulating because you've never actually seen this material. You've read about it and you've seen pictures of it. But this is the first time you actually see it.
Yeah, he's just clapping his hands as he's just so happy about this.
All right. What about you, Anvara? What did you do? You've been very quiet. It seems like all of the staring into Valtteri's eyes have left you a bit dismayed. Sorry, I had to.
Baka.
oh no, still reflecting over her mythology she's been doing in her last session. Mythology is the study of clouds, just so there's no confusion.
Yeah, no, that's all right. It's always good to specify those. Not everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
I was confused because for a second I only understood mythology, and I'm like, why is mythology now with clouds?
Well, I mean, technically, but no, we're not gonna do that. But yeah, no, I'll just check out this weird ass like shimmering metal that has like some sort of gloss over it. Like, well, I guess I heard audience and Fisher talking about mining.
Yeah.
I'll just like, I won't talk more than I need to, so I'll just like, yep, in my own.
All right. What about you,
Valtteri
Valtteri?
also noticed? Well, would she also notice? Because you never mentioned me.
Well, because you have the map and because you know you're almost there, I gave you advantage on your passive perception, and this puts you above the minimum that you had to have to notice it. So yes, you notice it.
Okay.
And so it is.
I guess I'm like.
It is a bit
I'm like
odd.
light.
You've never actually seen metal veins before. You know that they exist. You're a druid. You've been told about this. But this is the first time that you actually see a metal vein of any kind.
I'm trying not to touch them.
Yeah, actually, speaking of, guessing I'm tall enough to like just reach over and try to like touch the veins with the end of my fingers. It's like glossy and weird.
It's actually very smooth. Not like the walls. When you just touch a bit on the wall, you feel the rocky wall, and then when your hands glide over this small vein, it feels very smooth. And for a brief moment, maybe half a second, when you take your hand away, the shimmer seems to follow your finger for, like I said, half a second. There's definitely magic imbued in this. Naturally.
I'll just stand back and just go like, "Hey guys, check this out." Just like do it a couple times, just like pulling strings of glitter from the wall. Like, this isn't Sacred Flame, guys. This is weird. Like, I don't know.
Remy is suddenly standing next to you.
I'll just like throw whatever like sticks like towards him.
So for a half a second, you see this sparkle of light coming out from her hand, and she just tries and throws it toward you, and you just see maybe one or two sparkle, like fireflies ending their light cycle when they move.
Little Roman candles.
Yeah, that's super cool. We'll be sure to check it out when we come back after rescuing the dwarves.
All right. So on that note, you keep on going, and you reach this place, this very roughly dug out place. For a moment, you get the feeling that the dwarf weren't actually there when this place got dug out, because the hallway just goes into a very, very narrow passage, barely 5 feet wide. Feels like elves dug this little corridor. So for most of you, it's easy to pass, except for audience, which, just because of the bulk of his muscle, he has to just squeeze a little bit to get through. But it's not a gnome that dug this, so you can actually reach the other side fairly easily. But the moment that you enter, you get out of this small passageway that's been dug out, you find yourself in sort of a natural cavern, maybe 30 feet wide, roundish in shape, and there are these veins everywhere from this material, and they just follow all of the walls and go down toward the bottom, the floor, and you see these patterns of veins on the floor, which feels a bit like watching a I don't know how it's called in English. When you watch at the very faint veins of fat inside of a cut of meat. I know what it's called in French, but usually in English, I'm not sure.
Marbling?
Yes, I think that it is. This is it. So this floor has sort of these marbling patterns, marble patterns everywhere, made of these shimmering veins. And this room, when you look at it, it feels like there was supposed to be something here at one point, but either it's been removed or it was there so long ago it just became part of the rock and the rest of it. But this room is filled with these veins everywhere, and this glitter, which just seemed to be permanent in this place. I'd say even because of the shimmer of this, it's not dark at all. It's comparable to the full moon.
Okay.
You know what? Maybe he wasn't feeling so sure about coming back down here, but you know what? His mind has completely 100% made a reversal.
And
he found a place.
Because Fisher and Raimi, because you're the most arcane inclined person in the group, I'd say both of you can make an Arcana roll.
I'm rolling so good tonight.
I believe you.
14.
Well, it's
That's
better than 4.
17.
17. All right. For the both of you, as you're watching this, you sort of... Fisher, you don't know if it's your imagination, but it even feel like it smells magic in here. Sort of this weird, palpable or thing when the place is filled with magic that you can almost just reach out and touch the magic, but it's also in the way that it feels, it smells. And I'm aiming this toward both of you because you're the only ones in the group who actually made arcane magic studies. Almost feels like in this little 30-foot globe, magic would be easy to cast.
Can you just spell the magic?
Surprisingly enough, I think I know what you're talking about, Ramy. The stuff about the Hawkenite, was that what Ramy read in the scrolls?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Um,
Would I be able to figure out what this is now that we're surrounded by it?
You can you can try, of course. Again, it would be either Arcana or History. Just let me know which one you choose.
Well, they're both the same.
Yeah, but
probably History.
All right.
We believe in you.
I already did Arcana and did a lot of... Nope.
This.
The 7.
No, it is just...
That's another 2.
It is just strange and wonderful and bewildering, but no, nothing comes to mind when you're looking at this.
I haven't rolled above a 10.
I am going to ask, when you said Ramy heard about Hawkenite, did they literally say it?
That's an interesting question.
Because that will depend on whether or not Ramy can actually expend that information. Like
Right.
at least the.
All right. You've never heard it pronounced in its original form, the Harkonite, but you've heard it pronounced in its human deformation, Dragonite.
All right, he's going to go with the less precise term, much to his chagrin, but he's going to point at the shiny stuff and say, Dragonite.
That's a Pokemon.
Audience perks up when he hears the word dragon.
Because of this, I would allow you to make a history check, audience.
Okay. That's intelligence, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Audience is not great. He did not do well in history class.
You had history class?
He did very poorly in history class. He rolled a 2.
Oh, yeah.
Rip.
So you just Dragonite. I like the sound of this. That's about it.
Yep. That's literally it.
You can't help but to feel that your lord would probably enjoy this. Yep.
Audience is more interested now in taking some.
Look, there's the Dragon Knight.
Found the Dragonite, everyone. We did it. It's a valuable thing to find.
I'm actually only familiar with the initial 150 Pokemon. I've never watched
That
or
is from the 150 Pokemon.
Yeah. There's a whole episode about
oh,
it.
this yeah.
Remember, 3 of
Oh,
them,
but I
and they
thought-
all had attacks that were really annoying.
I think I know which. Anyway,
He was also in Pokemon, the first movie, where Chessie, where he was like the one who was bringing the letters. And Chessie, there's the scene where Chessie is with a frying pan holding him while he is trying to fly against.
all right. I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, since we're supposed to take a break at one point, we're gonna take a short 10-minute break for those of you who might want to go to the bathroom, and we're going to be back after this to see what happened with this discovery and also what else. All right. See you all back in 10 minutes. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Hello again. Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well, and I hope your insides have been emptied well enough, because we are going back to the game. And something during the break made me think about mentioning something. On stream, someone in the chat, someone asked why you couldn't become a subscriber on my Twitch channel. And again, during the week, someone else asked me. So, for those of you watching who don't know, there are a few conditions that you need to have to be able to activate subscription. One of them being we need 50 followers. So, if you're watching and you're not a follower and you'd like the option of being a subscriber, you know what you need to do. I have everything else, whatever I'm missing, I'm pretty sure I know how to get them. I only need the 50 followers. So, help us out, and you will actually become able to be a subscriber. All right. So, let's get this started again. All right, so you are inside this shimmering bubble of magical, copperish, shimmering veins of material. And right now, there are no dwarves around you. This small place is roughly 30 feet. It looks like a bubble, a roundish bubble of 30 feet wide. There's no corridor leading outside except the one that you just took. So it does feel like it was very recently discovered, and most likely not by dwarfs, because that would be a very narrow passage. Not to say that dwarfs wouldn't be able to get in here, but they're just used to making everything a little bit bigger than that.
So there's no other way
I
out.
guess we found
Yeah.
what they were looking for. I think.
Yes.
Might have been made off with the cheese.
What?
Well, I mean, not all of it, obviously.
Man? What?
Audience is gonna do a quick investigation around the room, just make sure there are no like hidden anything where like anything could be hidden.
All right, go ahead.
Can I also do that?
Yeah, in that case, I would allow you to either make each one an investigation roll, or one of you make it with advantage.
I'm gonna give Fisher advantage because he has not been rolling well, and my intelligence is awful. So I feel like that's our best bet.
But maybe it's on roll.
That's a 22.
Oh. Well, that's a good roll. So you're looking at this, and no, you don't find anything. And even weirder, you don't see any indication that this place has been mined. There's no mark of pickaxe or anything. It just feels like it was a natural bubble inside of the solid rock. If there was something here at one point, someone managed to get it out without digging it out, or it just vanished, disappeared. But looking at the way that this does feel like the heart of this vein, where it most likely spreads from.
Alright.
I get this weird feeling that we are inside of a dragon. Like a dead dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm getting
Yeah.
Raimi points at her.
With me?
Uh,
Oh my god!
Based on my knowledge, that's not an incorrect thing for me to point to her for, right?
Yeah.
I'm
It
just happy
is
that I finally kind of get the recognition.
from the knowledge that you have, it is a phenomenon that appears in places where legend talks about very, very old and large dragons.
Yeah, so the minute that Beltali says that, Raimi points at her and nods.
Oh boy.
But why would the dark elves go here?
what do you mean?
Isn't that what they might have been looking for?
Well, I don't know. It feels kind of obvious there was something else here that is now gone.
Raimi
So
points
we
at the mineral, the shining mineral in the room.
Audience is gonna drop to his knees and start praying.
m-
Ooh,
Maybe-
I like
may-
that.
maybe there have been some leftovers of the dragon or something?
Points to her again.
Well, they made it into this room, but they didn't mine anything in this room.
Magic.
There's no marks on the walls.
Maybe they got it out with magic?
Or maybe there was something in here, like in this bubble, not in the wall, not in the floor, in here, and they
Yeah.
just took it out.
Well, if
So
it was
what-
something large, then they couldn't have gotten it out from where we just came from.
Why would it have to be large?
I'm just saying, because dragons... large. Unless it was something that maybe killed the dragon, but... who knows?
Audience, as you drop on your knees and start praying, what exactly is the prayer, or something close to it, that audience thinks about?
Audience would probably pray, he'd basically be sad. He'd probably there'd be a bit of mourning in his prayer for the dragon, or in his mind, God that had fallen. There'd also be basically perhaps he'd be praying, asking answers of why this beast, had fallen. And probably those would be kind of the two main things, asking for guidance since he's in kind of a holy place as well, of kind of with dragons.
Please don't tell us we're in the corpse of Audience Dragon God.
I don't think so.
Man, if his god is dead, we're about to have a very angry paladin.
This is metal god is not a chrome. His god isn't a metallic dragon.
True.
No. All right.
I'd say those would be the nature. Those would be the three components of my prayer: both sorrow, asking for knowledge, and also, just kind of wondering how such a great creature could have fallen.
Okay.
Because it's fucking.
No. That's. I'm taking a note of this. It might have something. It might have an impact one day. As you finish your prayer, you get the feeling that this might be something that will be a part of your future.
Okay.
Good or bad?
I accept it for what it is. That's all that is wished to be given at this time. I accept it.
Audience, son of the.
Thing is, Raimi called this stuff Dragonite. I'm gonna call audience over to the wall. I'm gonna lift up his arm. Does this bracer look anything like this metal in the wall?
I mean, this metal's copper. My bracer's, what do you call it? Like a more metallic, like silver color. So
Okay.
I don't think it would be exactly the same.
So no, it is not the
Yes.
same
No.
color.
Well, then I suggest we go back to the tunnel and take that. As obviously, were there any other tunnels?
Yes, a lot. Get the feeling that
like-
the Umber Hulk made a lot of passage in this hallway. So there were a lot of small 5 foot wide, 8 foot tall openings in both sides of this long hallway.
Okay.
This was just the place that led us to where it says dig here.
I suggest we head back out of here and follow one of those tunnels. Because it feels like they got what they came for.
Audience will nod.
Then let's go.
And I guess I presumably like we didn't see like any notable tracks leading in and out of the room or area rather.
Well,
Is that- If there was like movement, especially like a lot of movement, it might be possible to track where the majority of it was going.
I'll let you decide if you just wanted to figure out if there were tracks by looking around and perceiving if there is anything. That's going to be a perception roll. If you actually got down on your knees and just started to sniff out the floor and see if there were any tracks, you can make an investigation.
Let's do investigation. I believe in you, Rogue. Well, that's a nice one. That would be a 22.
All right. So you look around and you look very carefully at the place where the rock was broken to make this small corridor and around it. And well, one thing you feel sure of, not a lot of people entered this place where you were a few moments ago. You get the feeling that maybe a handful of people at most got in there. You don't get the feeling that any dwarves got in there. There's nothing that really spells out dwarvish in the way that it's been dug out or anything like that. However, around this place, on the outside of it, back inside this corridor, you do get the feeling that there has been a lot of traffic over the last few days. Would guess that there has been a lot of digging, not as structured as the dwarves would do it, but it does feel like it's been dwarvishly dug out. So less fashionable, but more functionable way of making, of digging things out. As well, dwarf will try to make it both. Because once there's no more mineral, it becomes their home. So they actually want function and fashion when they dig out these things. So definitely inside the place where you were, almost pristine. Whatever happened there, whatever made its way in there, really doesn't feel like there's been a lot of activity there. Outside, it was dug out. There was a lot of people, a lot more than what is currently running into these halls trying to find these other dwarves. But at one point, they were here.
After everybody else leaves the bubble, I'd like to just throw a firebolt across at the opposite wall.
All right. So everyone leaves, and you make sure that you're the last one leaving the bubble. Does anyone have a problem with that? You see Fisher is sort of letting everyone move ahead of him.
Yeah, I imagine
I
that
just
ring.
would see it as something polite.
All right. So Orunak also leaves this small bubble. Very impressed with what this is. It's very interesting. Never saw anything like that. He spends most of his time in forest, so the underground it's another shard. Usually, it's very impressive. So you find yourself alone in this small bubble. So you turn around and you throw a firebolt. You throw a firebolt toward the end, in the other side of the room, and the firebolt cancels out as it touches the wall, as if it had been dispelled.
Huh.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Definitely not the worst result that could have happened. Okay, I'm just gonna follow everybody else out.
So you see Fisher come out of this place with, okay. All right, so you're outside. And Remy, you have this conclusion also when you look around the outside. You probably were a bit outside already because all of the investigation that you made. So you get this feeling that all of these dwarves that were taken were probably here at one point. But none of them entered that corridor. And it definitely doesn't follow the fashion of how dwarves digs.
So which tunnel are we taking?
Next most interesting looking one. Is there another one that has like important veins connected?
Once you're outside, you see a lot less of these veins, but you do see a lot of them. Nothing would suggest that it follows that one point follows where this where these cavern went, and does feel like some of them might have been dug out where maybe more mineral wars, as if they had been, influenced the Umber Hulk to dig into this place just to loosen out the walls, but nothing suggests that it was dug out because it was more abundant. It all just becomes less and less and less. It's not less 5 feet away. It's a lot less. It's just as if all these veins were coming out, going everywhere, and then they become more distant after maybe 20 feet. You notice that they're not just a few inches apart. Now they're maybe a foot apart, and they sort of all branches out. But nothing suggests that the way that the Umber Hulk dug was to follow a very much bigger vein of this material.
Okay. Then I suggest we look at the tunnels that looked like they were man-made rather than the ones that were made by Umber Hulk. Probably the elves knew where they were going.
Sounds
Well,
like
that's-
a plan.
All right.
Anyone else?
When Remy was doing his investigation, did it seem like a certain direction of like the steps taken seemed to be like the most recent?
Most recent.
Would that be like a survival?
I can't remember. Following tracks is nature or survival? No, I think it's nature because it's like tracking an animal, and animal would be nature, not survival.
Thought it was.
I'm
I
always
thought nature was like encyclopedia about nature and
yeah.
survival.
I'm sorry about this. I always
Scouts.
I always mix nature and survival about their potential. Hold on.
A lot of the skills have very similar meaning names.
I will say that like in the ranger class features, it kind of like draws this line as well, where it's like you like do the intelligence nature checks to recall information about your favorite enemy and
All right, well,
to track.
I have the answer in the player's handbook. It literally states survival check to follow tracks, hunt wild game, guide your group through frozen wasteland. So yeah, we have our answer. So it's survival, and because of how well you made your investigation, I will let you have advantage on this survival check.
Okay. Thank God for advantage, because that was a 1. Yeah, significantly better. 16.
All right. So for a moment, you look at this and you still see these spots of light from where you were, and you almost run into a wall, but manage to catch yourself just in time. You're pretty sure no one noticed that. And you just... All right, so this... Yeah, you're pretty sure that probably this corridor was the last one to be dug out. You can still see a bit of rubble, crumbled rocks at the bottom of it. Probably this one.
Remy points to that tunnel and says, "You got to make sure to get the fresh cheese, you know?"
It's good enough for me.
Yep.
Oh.
You want to go first, Ramy?
How does Remy react to this?
What did Fisher say?
You want to go first?
Well, I guess he has to, since he was the one following the tracks to begin with.
So when you say this, you see Remy with a bit of puppy eyes starts walking inside the corridor.
Scary tunnel.
So, what would be the marching order? Remy first for direction, followed by...
Probably I'll go next.
Okay.
Yes, I'll follow.
Okay.
I'll bring up the rear.
Which means, Valtteri, you are
Second last.
second to last. And since Arunak decided follow, well, apparently,
Still keep him going with us.
as long
He
as
doesn't need
audience,
to rest.
as long as audience doesn't summon, unsummon him, he's gonna keep following.
That poor dude.
All right, so
This will not even identify as dude.
technically it is a tree.
Excuse you.
So
Dude is a gender neutral.
I know, right?
That poor
something.
them. Over here.
Well, for a tree, I think it's justified to call it it.
But then I think of the clown from it.
I know. So, this means in the marching order, Valtteri, you are walking behind poor old Arunak. So, but this makes sense, you know. You're walking and you're seeing this tree that is just under your line of vision. So, oh, this is cool. It feels like you're standing in the tallest of tree, watching at everything around you, except that there's only one tree and the rest is rock.
I feel large.
Now you know how audience feel when he's standing next to you. All right. So you start walking into this long corridor, and it goes on for quite a while. You cross paths with dwarves a few times, as this corridor eventually meets up with another corridor that's been dug out. But this one looks a bit older. Feels like a bit of an earthworm that was just digging everywhere and then sometime crossing an old path that he had made and just kept on going. So it feels a bit like a labyrinth. But because Remy rolled a good roll for his tracking, you manage to follow this paths of crumbled rock, which feels like it means that this tunnel was mostly dug and not used for a very long time before it was abandoned, because it hasn't been cleaned by the traffic of people walking. And it doesn't feel old, so you don't feel that you're also following the first one that was abandoned long ago. So
Tunnel. We found it.
So takes a while. Maybe after 30 minutes, track starts feeling a little bit less fresh, but you find yourself crossing dwarves again, and feels like maybe the dwarves started to muddy the tracks a bit. But after 30 minutes, you do cross another group of dwarves running in the opposite direction. They don't seem to be running out of fear. They're just running as if wanting to transmit something important to someone. So you
Alright.
see them running in your direction. Do you react?
I
to
guess
it?
I'll call out because Remy, I know, can't talk that easily.
I thought no, he was like,
I'll be like, "What's the news?"
Yeah. Oh, well, you're those adventurers. Yes. Well, I think we found a place where they might have kept the dwarves. It's just a bit further down this place. But it's mostly abandoned. We found a few crates, few barrels, a few makeshift cots, abandoned pots, and a few chambers. They're all empty. But really feels like I don't know, maybe they were dwarves were kept. We're just going back to report on this. We've actually didn't search everything very thoroughly, but maybe you'll have more chance. I don't know. We just have to report back to the one who was in charge of this. What's his name again? He's new to the mine. Yeah, see the other dwarves. Don't worry about it. Just keep on going. But I really want to know his name. And why? Oh. And you hear them moving off in the distance.
Okay. I'll turn to the others and be like, "Want to go give it a once over of our own? See if we can pick up anything."
Sounds like a good idea.
All right.
All right. And actually, I have a map of this that I'm going to send you. Because if you hadn't done all of this, this is where a big battle would have taken place. But because there's too many dwarves, it's been abandoned. So I'm sending you to our Discord a map of the place you're entering. And you're entering from the right side. And for everyone to know what this was supposed to look like, I am going to switch over to the battle map so viewers can actually see what this place was supposed to look like.
Audience now regrets all his decisions. He missed out on the battle.
So as you enter this, one after the other, from the right of this, so at D12. So you enter into this place, and it does feel like it once was a camp where a lot of people were held. You see a few makeshift cots. You see a large area where there is a natural source of water. When you look to your right, you see something that feels dug out. There's quite a bit of rumble there, and feels like there's air coming out from this. From where you are, you do see a few barrels on one of the walls, and you can see the place where the dwarf said there were crates and also a lot of material. And you see what he meant by one of the pot, because you can actually see the one at G9. It is a cooking pot, so most likely dwarves were there at one point.
All right.
Huh.
So J11, is that a hole going down?
Do you actually go there and see?
Yes.
Laura will go with them.
All right. So you both make your way to this place, and yes, you do feel like all of the rubbles that have been placed in front of it act a bit as a natural barrier, so someone wouldn't just stumble and fall into the abyss. And you look at this hole. It's not a wide hole. no more than 5 feet by 5 feet. But you don't see the bottom of it. However,
Huh.
Anvara and Fisher make a perception roll.
12.
9.
You look,
Die.
you look at this, and well, Anvara, your passive perception being higher does mitigate a bit the roll that you made, but still, you look at this and it feels very, very deep.
Okay, Alvara's gonna grab one of the rocks from the rubble and cast light on it
All right.
and just drop it down the hole.
Hey.
All right. Cast light on the rock, and you let it fall, and you see it fall maybe 10, 20, 30. When it reaches 40 feet, you see it stop, and you hear... You're looking at this from the light, and...
That's not good. Fuck. A fleshy noise coming from a deep black hole. That is not good. Shit.
Well, actually, now that you have a light down there,
Count.
I want to see how you say this to everyone, so I'm gonna send it to you, just you.
Oh, fuck me. Okay.
I have a feeling I already know what this is.
I assume it's just a latrine. That's what I guessed when you said the whole.
Just a splash of shit coming back up.
5 by 5 foot.
I
So,
don't know.
it's the sound of the rock falling into that.
All right. And
Because
Alvara
of the
knows
light,
for
you
sure.
can see it a bit more. And now that you see this, you start picking the smell that's supposed to come with this.
Hey guys, do dwarves usually have like underground corn storage, or is it just this one?
If Raimi had skin, it would be pale.
Yeah, no, it's literally I just dropped a rock into a pile of shit. Nothing else happened
Yep.
here.
Raimi is going to pointedly investigate the area away from the poop hole.
All right. So, where do you...
That'll be.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, sorry, did I interrupt someone?
No, sorry, I
No, that's okay.
Okay, just want to make sure I didn't want to interrupt. 23.
All right. Where exactly do you want to investigate? Generally, or a place in particular?
I would say that considering the fact that this place was actually once filled with dwarves, he is going to see if, hopefully getting around the dwarves that they knew they were in here, trying to see if he can like find another group of set that seem fresh, because they probably had to leave like sometime recently.
All right. So, and you start investigating everything. So, I actually positioned you on the map where I think you'd be right now. So, Remy, you start making investigation. Valtteri and audience, what do you do exactly?
I would probably go. Where would audience go? Audience would probably go check out, I guess, the water.
All right.
That area.
All right.
Fun fact, that was also the area I wanted to check out, so I guess I go with him.
All right, so this means Valtteri, Audience, and Orunak all go to the water. For Orunak, it's a bit obvious, water. So, Audience and Valtteri, what exactly are you doing near the water? Investigation, perception, clean yourself? I don't know.
Investigation.
Perception.
All right, so what are you investigating, Audience?
Audience has no idea. He's just really trying to nothing specific. He's just trying to see if he can find any clues to where these dwarves might have gone,
Okay.
Anything.
Okay,
He has to watch.
So
And Valtteri, what are you trying to perceive?
I would just look if there's something catching my eye, kinda.
Okay.
19.
19,
and 9.
9. And Remy, what did you roll for your searching of the cave?
23.
23. All right. So, for the place where there's the water, it is most likely the place where the dwarf could get their water, both for cooking and also drinking. You do see a few marks around this, which shows that they might even have, one of them actually might even have tried to bathe in this. Judging from a boot left at the bottom of this. But other than that, it looks like a natural spring of water. There's really nothing beyond what you can find in this small area. It is the natural pool of water, most likely the only source of clean water for the dwarves to use. Remy, with 23, looking at everything, from the smell of the beds, you'd say that you can confirm that this was a place where dwarves spent a lot of time. It smells the dwarves who has worked all day in a mine and not been given much time to bathe and wash. So you also have a confirmation that they most likely were slave in this. The embers from under the cooking pots are slightly warm, meaning there was most likely people in this room little more than a few, maybe 5 or 6 hours ago. Most likely, when everyone was there, it was probably for a meal. With 23, you get a second confirmation that it's most likely dwarfs, as the barrel that you can find in E7 and E8 smells like alcohol, though most of them are empty. Only a few of them have alcohol in it, not a lot. And it's pretty mild from comparing to the smell that the dwarfs were dunking the head of the poor Teshare elves in. So it's probably a very mild alcohol. Other than that, by looking around, at the end where there are all the crates, You'd say that this place has been emptied very recently. All you find are broken and empty crates, a few barrels which you're not sure if they've been emptied or just left there. That's mostly what you find inside the room. As far as where they might have gone, most likely either the exit at G or A. But the exit at L4 doesn't seem to be something that was very traveled by dwarves. It was most likely where the elves came from.
Interesting.
So
Wait, which entrance did we come in?
you came at the D entrance, D12.
D12. Okay.
So Raimia would call out, "The dew this morning is fresh, isn't it?" And first he's going to minor illusion a dwarf that he met recently and point at the two entrances of, I think he said A and G.
Yep.
And then he's going to point to the, I think you said the J entrance?
L.
The L entrance.
Yeah.
And he's going to minor illusion a drow they haven't seen before, but it's a drow.
All right. So you see this image of a Deshari elf that you've never met. And he points at the entrance or exit at L4 when he does that. For J and A, J1 and A6, it was dwarves that he pictured.
Alright.
Would Valtteri and audience notice that as well from where we are, that Remy is doing that?
Well, he talked before. I think he tried to attract everyone's attention, so it would.
Okay.
Yeah, he specifically is, "The dew is fresh this morning, isn't it?"
Yeah,
Yes.
but would we, the visuals, see like the minor illusions from where we are?
Well, it depends.
Waited a little bit.
The moment that you heard him talk, did you actually went to see where he was, or you stayed where you were?
I would be completely confused of what he's saying.
All right. From the angle, I'd say audience could have seen simply by turning around because he's next to the border. But Valtteri, if you're just bewildered and wondering what's happening, because there's audience between you and the rest of the area where you're looking, you might not have actually seen the illusions that he was making unless you moved.
I say we go after the dwarves first. We can
I
come
would-
back for the elves later.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess we could try and check. I guess we can try and look at each entrance, see which one looks like was most recently traveled. Perhaps we'll know which one they escaped from.
Okay. So if you want to figure out which one is the one that seems to have been used the most recently, I'd say it's survival. Two of you can make a survival check on their own, or you can choose someone to give advantage to.
For all of us, or right?
Well, because I can only give advantage to something, I'd say just choose either choose two of you to make survival check, or choose one representative and give him advantage.
I mean, I guess I have the highest wisdom of all of us.
Probably. You got proficiency in survival.
I have a +2 in survival.
I have +4.
Alright. I'll
Plus-
just give you.
Yeah, sir.
All right, so
So like
Valtteri,
with proficiency, with
advantage.
advantage.
Because basically everyone's helping you.
Huh. 16 plus 4 is a 20, not natural.
All right. So with
The other one was a natural 1, so yeah.
all right. So you start out completely confused because you're not used to being underground. But with the help of everyone around you and pointing out different things, you sort of get your bearing back and yeah, all right. Yeah, sure, no problem, guys. I got this. And you eventually point toward the exit at J1 as being most likely the one where there was a lot of passage very, very recently.
G. Wow.
Sorry, G, yes.
Alright.
I guess we should go that way then. It's the most recent one where people went.
Let's go.
Alright.
Yep.
All right. So you leave this small chamber where there was a lot of dwarves, and I'm going back to the normal layout because you forced everyone in that room to abandon posts because there's just too many dwarves looking around. And so you make your way inside this small corridor, and it takes maybe 5 or 6 minutes following this very narrow 5-foot wide path. Do you retake the same marching order, or because Valtteri is the one helming this, you let her take point?
Oh, precisely because Valtari is leading it, Raimi is at the back.
Nice.
I'll stay in my second position behind the person tracking.
All right. So this relieves Anvara. Where do you want to be in this marching order?
I'll stay behind audience.
So basically, we just switch place between Remy and Valtteri. So Remy, you find yourself walking behind a tree. And Valtteri, you find yourself walking at the front of the group.
Maybe takes comfort in the fact that hide behind.
Feels just like when you were hunting a creature and it suddenly became that the creature was hunting you. You hid behind a tree. It feels so familiar. All right. So, Valtteri, you are helming this search, and everyone is looking at you expectantly, watching you follow these tracks. An audience, you're probably the first one who can notice that Valtteri is trying to make it look like she knows what she's doing. But she's proficient in what she's doing, but not feeling that secure.
Like you see, like she's trying to have confidence, but it's not there.
Usually when she walks, you can see her tail slowly wagging left and right. But now her tail has been completely tucked around one of her legs, and you even see the extremity of it just slightly shivering. So you make your way inside this long hallway, and it's a pretty dull walk. You get the feeling that whomever dug this really was just going for function and no fashion at all. But after 5 or 6 minutes, you eventually find yourself, and Valtteri, of course, you're the first one to notice this, find yourself in a place where it suddenly widens very fast. So you get the feeling that you're just entering into larger room.
Guys, get ready.
So as you enter into this larger room, how far is your dark vision?
Let me look.
Pretty sure it's 60 for.
Most
I
likely,
think-
but
Yeah. It should be.
all right.
Yeah, 60 feet.
All right. So you get in and you look left, look right, and you see the sides of this room. And when you look in front of you, you're having a little bit of trouble figuring out what this is. But after a moment, you do notice that, all right, it's small. They all look miserable. It's a huge group of dwarves.
I stop for a second as I notice that there are dwarfs.
When you said guys get ready, did you say that out loud?
That was a joke. That was out of character.
Oh,
Okay.
too bad.
Sorry.
All right.
So I stop as I see the dwarfs. So probably audience is bumping into me, I guess.
I mean, you stop suddenly.
Yeah. And I try to whisper. There are
And
dwarves
especially
over
since Valtteri doesn't have any light source on her, she's relying on her dark vision, and audience doesn't have dark vision, so most likely he really didn't notice at all that you stopped.
Yeah.
And since
She
no
whispered
one
that.
and since no one said that they actually had a light source with them, unless you have dark vision, you have no clue what's right in front of you.
And just give audience a shit-covered rock from earlier. So it has a light on it.
I mean, that was 40 feet down. I don't know how you were getting that.
Yeah, you could climb down and grab it.
No, I didn't.
Like, that comes back to your
So, so after the stinging pain in my back of audience bumping into me, I tried to whisper to him. There are dwarfs over there, but they look miserable.
Audience would light a torch. So we could see.
What about the bright torch that Raimi is burning?
Audience is gonna light his own torch.
Yours is more.
All right, so you take out the torch and you light it up, and immediately you see, I'd say, a group of 30 dwarves looking absolutely miserable. Some of them very thin. Get the feeling that some of them have been abducted before the attack started. Most of them just look very tired, very grimy. Actually, one of them just makes a few steps forward when you light up the torch, and dwarfs, and who goes there? You recognize that voice as being the voice of the dwarf that turned into the elves, which is supposed to be Bram.
Hey, the real Prime.
I will respond in dwarf because I can do that. A group of adventurers sent to rescue you, and I'll kind of hold up my torch to reveal that, like, actually, I'll just say that for now.
I just have the picture in my head of, because I'm still in front of him, them just seeing my frame through the light.
It's a divine tiefling.
That speaks dwarven. What?
I I think they'd assume it was probably me.
Yeah, audience probably has a tone of voice that really doesn't match that of a tiefling.
Yeah.
Especially a tiefling female.
Damn, she's got a rugged voice. Wow.
Have you met Dwarvish women?
So, the moment you say this, you see a few of the dwarves coming forward. They're just looking, squinting at you. You hear a few whispers, and then you see Bram just turn around and pipe down. Yeah, well, you certainly have that right. You look like a group of adventurers. And you are wearing the garments of a holy person. And the rest of your party? There's a bit of suspicion in his eyes, sort of hopeful with a mix of disbelief.
I'll kind of raise my torch higher and walk into the room, and I'll be like, we have a tiefling, a construct, and a kenku. We are an odd bunch.
You forgot one.
Oh, and I mean, I don't care about her. An elf.
Also,
Oh,
an elf's not
It's not getting
an
killed for
odd
20.
one.
No, I didn't say anything because it's in character, because he keeps calling her follower of false gods, so
The pagan.
yeah.
Pagan.
I only said
Some
that you
random
forgot
ass
one.
pagan female.
Andre was saying something.
Nothing important.
I guess Raimi will pipe up in the voice of the one dwarf that took charge. We'll go searching in groups of 5.
Well, that makes us seem a lot more suspicious than we were a second ago.
Yeah. All right, I was rolling normal, but I'll roll at disadvantage now.
Right.
No, for real though.
No,
Hearing-
because you take the voice of a dwarf saying, "Let's search in group of 5," but he's looking at a group of 6, not
does it-
dwarves.
in here.
Because you have to remember that what he's looking at is
I
not.
would have picked a different phrase, but I couldn't remember other sentences that they said.
That's all right.
The point was to use a voice that they at least recognized, that was at least trying to search for them.
Oh no,
Yeah.
definitely.
Doing
But
a voice they recognize makes it more
I get it. Just go
suspicious.
ahead, do the disadvantage roll. I will accept this.
They've
punishment.
been dealing with people who have been imitating trusted voices for a bit.
Yeah.
But don't worry, the disadvantage roll rolled higher than the first roll, so it doesn't change anything. But both of them were under 10, so so he
Oh,
looks
boy.
he looks at all of you and well, forgive me for not being overjoyed, but did you take care of the creature that was also following these elves?
The Umber Hulk?
Oh, so that's
Big
what it
beetle
was.
thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we slew that a while back. That was easy.
Raimi minor allusions to dead corpse.
You see a few dwarves' eyes go very wide when they see the image of a miniature Umber Hulk appearing in front of them. Yeah, that's the last thing I saw before being forced to labor. Another dwarf just, yeah, me too. All right, well, looks at all of you again, and he stops at Anvara, and An elf, huh? Oh, and you hear a few dwarves saying, "Oh, I can't believe this." And Bram just looks at you and says, "You seem to have a cleric symbol on you."
Yes, I'm the actual holy person here.
Can you heal? We have quite a few injured. And some of them sick also.
How many
I-
are we talking? Are we talking 6?
I-
There's 30
Could also
dwarves in
help.
there. Most of them
30
looks
fucking dwarves? Okay.
Most of them look exhausted. A few of them look sick, thin sick. So some of them seems
Okay.
to be there for longer than the few weeks that the Umber Hulk have been hunting. But most of them looks tired, exhausted, grimy. A few of them looks injured and most likely have been carrying an injury throughout their days of work. So you got quite a few injuries.
Alright, guess
I
I'll get to
could
work.
also help. I'll help with you.
We also have a tree that can help.
Okay. So I'll channel divinity and give 15 of those dwarves 1 HP back.
Oh, the light comes to you, and you see this energy flowing from you. And you look at all the dwarfs looking at one another, and yeah. Well, I can
Fucks.
breathe easier.
There you go.
I can give 6. Are there like some that look rougher than like more
Definitely,
torn than the others?
definitely. So, like I said, some of them
Then
actually
I'll-
look sick.
Then I'll take the 6 worst looking and heal them.
All right,
And there goes all my spell slots.
that's all right.
Okay.
It's 4 first level Q wounds and 2 second level Q wounds. Should I still roll for them or?
So it's 1d8
Like how
plus. It's 1d8 plus your
Spellcasting ability
spellcasting
modifier.
abilities.
Yes. Which is a +4.
Yeah, well, you can roll, but because of the nature of this, I don't mind taking the average of all of this.
Yeah, sure. And the Q wounds on second level would be
2d8 plus your
Mhm.
2d8.
And your
So 4
spellcasting
get 1d8. Is +4
plus 4.
modifier.
So it's 6.
Alright.
Math.
About 50
Where's
hit
the
points in
calculator?
total.
with an additional 24. That would be 51. 51 divided by.
So I'm healing the worst looking.
Alright.
your HP each.
I think we lost one camera.
He said he was gonna be AFK for a few minutes.
Oh, okay. Then.
Um,
Yeah, no, I know. Just because his camera, when he went offline, his camera just blocked also Raimi's camera. So.
Oh.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, in the stream we have now 2 people missing.
Okay. I'm going to do a super cranked prayer of healing. So that's going to be 12 creatures are going to take 2d8s plus 7.
All right. All right. Well, then in that case, definitely between your spells, Valtari spells, and Orunak spells, you all manage to patch them up pretty well. And they all feel a lot better. Some of them are actually getting up slowly. A few of them still look sick, as in they most likely would have needed a restoration spell, but they actually get. It's a group of 30 people that have been worked as slaves.
I can deal with that. I can walk up to the ones that deal sick. How many look sick?
Um, 4 of them looks really sick.
I can deal with 3.
Can I use a healing kit on the last one? Since I have proficiency in healing and all
Sure.
medicine.
Sure.
Alright.
Alright. The 3 that are sick, I'll use my lay on hands on, so that'll restore 5 hit points to each of them. And that will cure any disease or neutralize any poison.
All disease or one disease?
As an action, you could touch a creature restoring number of HP. And 5 to either cure a disease or neutralize a poison, so 1 disease.
Okay. So, alright, no, basically, that's good, that's good. Alright, so between the 4 of you, you actually managed to get them pretty back up in shape. And because you've all pitched in, all helped them, they all seem to have started to trust all of you a little bit more. It takes a while because it's 30 people. You're taking care of 30 people in total. So, Remy, there's not a lot that you can actually do.
Yeah. Arcane Trickster just goes shrug.
So, but you watch this, well, a bit surreal picture of a elf taking care of dwarfs, which is bound to rub them in their ego the wrong way. A tiefling helping people, which from your background is a bit unusual. A dragonborn helping to heal people, which usually they injure and not heal. And a tree helping people. It's sort of a bit of a surreal moment watching this.
Maybe it's going to remember this moment for posterity.
For some reason, I believe we're gonna have this image again as a minor illusion one day.
It's like, check this shit out, minor illusion.
You think you saw weird stuff? Check this.
I know you can minor illusion a fever dream. What the hell is this?
No, he could take it one step further. He could silent image it and have it like play out in a scene.
So basically, Remy takes a photograph with his arcane magic of this moment, which is most likely come back one day. And Fisher also, you can't really heal. What do you do while you see Anvara, Audience, Valtteri, and Orunak tending to the poor, sick, and injured dwarves?
How far back was it to the camp?
You walked about 5 or 6 minutes before you entered this place. So...
Okay. I mean, I have a healer's kit. I'm not
Sure.
proficient in medicine, but I have a kit.
Sure, it would probably help you more efficiently use whatever resource everyone else is using, so they might actually be able to heal more. So sure, you can help the efforts. So since Anvara and Fisher are both using healing kit, I'd say just to get a feeling of how efficient you both were, you can either both of you roll medicine with advantage because you both have the proficiencies, I think.
Healer's kit doesn't take a proficiency. That's an herbalism kit.
Well, you can't get the proficiency from the healer's kit? I thought you could.
No, it's
All right.
herbalism.
Well, in that case, just one of you make a medicine check and advantage because the other one's going to help them.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I got +5 in proof, so
That would be the natural deduction.
first one's a 17, next one is a 12.
All right. So, all right, it's just to give me a good idea of how well the healing was made, and taking into consideration that you both have healing kits. So yeah, the dwarfs are mostly back up to functional. Of course, you can't take the everything out of a month of forced labor, but they can all walk. Most of them look fairly grateful. A few of them just looked at one another. And Anvara, you noted that it's mostly you around you, but you also know the history between dwarves and elves, meaning it's sort of the same humiliation of getting patched up by your brother and sister when you thought that you were the stronger one. So you know that that's what they're feeling right now because you healed them, but also
No, I'll just look at him. You can tell him it was a dragonborn.
Like, I'm not going to
yeah.
this. You're not going to tell anyone this.
The only people who know are the people in this room and whoever sees the minor illusion made by the Kenku.
He can't possibly blab. He can barely speak.
And when
No,
you
but he
say
knows a lot
and
of
him,
fucking
when he
magic.
makes mighty illusion, you see 6 dwarfs looking in his direction at the same time. Remy, you see Anvara pointing in your direction, and you see 6 dwarfs looking at you suspiciously. So for the rest of you, well, Valtteri, of course you have a few mixed feelings about this, but then again, you healed them. So, and you're part of a group which mostly looks good, so the apprehension seems to die down after you healed a few people, and because of the care in general that you're giving, everything seems to be going well. And for a few moments, you do hear Bram talk, and we appreciate this very much. So I don't know exactly how much you know. Fisher, what... You helped them all the way? You didn't go back to the camp? You asked how far was the camp, so...
Yeah, I just... Because if it was, like, short,
Right.
I would have gone, but, I mean, if it was...
Okay.
5 minutes, no, I would have stayed in.
All right. So, all right. So I don't really know how much you know of what's been going on. So I saw you killed the creature.
Oh, maybe puts minor illusions, a vision of the Shadar elf in question, but tied and bound and being drowned in ale.
You can't help but to notice that quite a few dwarves are liking this image. Some of them chuckling a little bit, and Bram looking at this and it's definitely feels like an appropriate retribution. Thank you for showing this.
Maybe make the rainbow.
Yeah. I can't wait to see how these elves are going to explain to their matriarch that they're going back with only half of what they promised. Well, we thank you for this, and I'm pretty sure we can find our way back on our own, but as you can see, we're not armed, and there was maybe a dozen of them in total. They all took their orders from one particular, which actually looks very similar to one that you just sorry, that you just shown us. The other ones didn't seem to be that well versed in combat, but they still outnumbered us when they attacked us in corridors. So just be mindful. I'm not sure if they're still there, but if you actually got up to here, I'd say they probably left. Probably took most of what they forced us to mine. Did they find any more inside the mine? Would be ashamed if they managed to mine most of it. It would actually make this trip a lot more worthwhile.
Did you guys ever make it into the bubble?
No. I'm not sure what bubble you're referring to.
Maybe visual aids.
Yeah.
So this explanation turns into a manga. Oh, wow. No, actually, and this is still there?
Maybe nods.
Oh, this might actually make this worth it. It's it's a bit of a mineral that's a bit hard to handle, and it's definitely costs a lot, so a bit of a niche, but with Drakenvein nearby, we get the access to the sea. I'm pretty sure we can sell this outside of the island chain. Could actually find quite a few people who would be interested in buying this. I'm pretty sure that the Dragonborn hunting for us would appreciate weapons made out of these. Thanks.
What do you know about it?
Audie gives a nod, just like Dragonborn weapons probably would appreciate.
It's actually it's rare. Usually only found where dragons used to live. We're not sure if it's because of them being there, or because maybe it is the last place where they were. It's always hard to find good stories about where dragon lived, and they eventually either just leave or are slain where they are. Judging from the vein, it most likely was a copper dragon. We haven't found any history about copper dragons dying in the region, but so maybe it's just because there were copper dragons once. I mean, I've heard about red dragon living inside the island chain, and completely to the north, I've also heard rumors about the green dragon living there. And there's silver dragon. I've heard rumors living on a peak. If you've traveled a bit around Estrin, you might have seen this lonely peak in the middle of the island. The rumor says that there's a silver dragon living on top of it. But nothing about copper dragons. So, but definitely, we know it comes from dragons, or is a byproduct of them being there. Either of them being there for a very long time, sort of as if they abandon their lair or dying in their lair. You know, it's very rare that it happens, so there's not a lot of documentation about it. Maybe in older island chains. This one is actually very young. So, but yeah, usually it's probably one of those. Did you know anything more that could help us? But we have most of what we need. But more knowledge is always good.
Rainy looks like he's about to say something, but realizes he can't. Just grumbles, Dragonite, Dragonite, Dragonite.
All right.
I don't remember much, but Raimi here snatched some papers out of the one who was pretending to be you's office. They might have something to say about it.
Oh, all right. Well, that is a bit of a mixed feeling in this. I'm grateful that you removed the imposter, but then again, and he looks at you, Remy, and says, "You went through my stuff."
Kind of like kicks at the ground.
And did you take anything else from my stuff?
He shakes his head.
Make a deception roll.
Like, come on, Raimi, I believe in you. You're not going to believe it, but it actually is a nat 20.
All right. I believe you. I believe you. You've never given me a reason to doubt you. So, all right. Well, he was there for a few weeks, so I guess he probably already took everything that was of worth in there.
He knows how to take out the documents that he had and give them over.
Well, thank you. It's actually
You
have a few dwarfs that can read this, so we're gonna get to see if they actually managed to find something else interesting and what was their plan. Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. Yeah. He turns toward the rest of you and says, I think he likes rainbows a lot. All right. Well, that's... Thank you, everyone. And now we'd very much like to go back to our own houses and our own halls. Get a good night's sleep.
Should we try help you get there just in case?
Well, we'd appreciate it. Like I said, there were a dozen of them, and they all have weapons, and we don't. So, but maybe just all the way back to the halls, main corridors.
I guess we could do that.
I didn't waste 2 prayers of healing just to have them die on the way.
All right. So,
Wow.
so you all start moving into these halls that are 5 feet wide in a long, long line made of 5 adventurers, a tree, and 30 dwarves snaking through all of these corridors.
Raimi opens his
that's
beak.
a sight to behold.
Hi ho, hi ho.
All right, so you can easily, because of everyone that's walking, you're quite easy to hear approaching, and because of that, you don't meet anyone else but other dwarves who seem to be very happy to see that dwarves are coming back. And some of them are actually surprised at watching the dwarves and the dwarves and the dwarves and the dwarves. And
It's one-on-one Dalmatians. Effectively.
from the look of some, you feel like there's more dwarves in there than there should be. So as you all get back into the hall, in the main corridor, the dwarves all come out one after the other, filling the space. You see other dwarves walking down the corridors. Then they have weapons and... Oh, Bram! That's a lot of dwarves. Where did they all come from? We didn't lose that many people. Bram looks at him and looks at all the dwarves and well, they're all miners. Maybe you should take a look at other mining shafts. Because they're all part of our miners. And then you see the dwarf with all the weapons. Oh, goodness. This is going to take a while. Alright. Well, thank you very much in turns toward all of you. Thank you very much for getting them back here. I think we have a bigger rat problem than what we anticipated. But now that we actually know who we're supposed to hunt, it's probably going to go very much easier. I wonder if they're all going to react the same as the elves that we have been... Well, I want to say torture, but really, is it torture?
Remy Minor illusions the scene again.
You see the dwarf say, that's what I mean. Is it really torture when it's alcohol?
Thank you, sure.
So from the perspective of the
Valtteri
dwarf...
just slowly hides behind audience because she knows that she doesn't drink alcohol. And doesn't want to answer that.
Alright. So, you're all back inside the hall. Is there anything you would like to do before we end the stream? Because half of you look a bit tired, so I just wanted to know, is there anything you'd like to add before we end? You are in a very large hall. Everyone is thanking you. Some of them are looking at you suspiciously, but most of them are thanking you.
We should probably, at some point, talk to the garden again and see what they know about this stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess it's like, would it have been possible to actually no? Like even when Unvara tried to touch the stuff, like it wasn't very collectible.
Well, it's metal veins, so
Support.
you'd have to mine it. You'd have to break chunks of it and bring it back.
That's a process. No, I'm aware. I've been okay. In which case, like, no.
But you don't know. Maybe they'll let you bring a bit of ore with you. You'd have to ask. So, with everyone very grateful at everything you did, and having found a way to avoid a very... well, what should have been a very difficult fight, you managed to bring back not 6 dwarves, but 30 dwarves to the camp. And like I said, we're going to end this session here with a successful search and rescue. But unfortunately not search, destroy, and rescue.
those dark elves got out of there?
Well, there were sort of a lot of dwarves running inside the mines, so yeah, a lot of armed dwarf running inside the mines. So yeah, they
Dwarves.
packed things up and they just left. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the show. This is all for tonight. Sorry. If you enjoyed it and if you want to support the stream, you can always follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And right now, following us on Twitch would help a lot because it would allow me to activate the subscription part of Twitch. And it would also support us financially if we get to that point. But until then, if you want to support us financially, you'll have to make either a donation or become a Patreon. And of course, you can always simply spread the word about this channel because the more of you there will be, the more fun it'll be to talk in chat, talk about any mistakes we make, any decisions which seems to be really the bad decision to make. But, you know, why did the player actually choose this? Mostly because they're not seeing it from your point of view. They're seeing it from the point of view of, if I make a mistake, I'm gonna die. But still, it's always fun to talk about these things. So, spread the word. And until next Wednesday, stay safe and stay healthy, especially in those times. And we'll see you again next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye-bye.